Hello everyone and welcome back to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 45. Yes, we have done 45 of these. Today, we are here with the pitching coordinator, Crone, and the pitching director, Jason Sanders. Today, we will be going over the pitching. I just said Jason Sanders. Justin Sanders is his real name. I don't know why I said Jason. I just caught that because he looked at me and I saw it in my peripheral. Justin Sanders, the pitching director here at KPI. Almost messed it up again. Today, we will be talking about the pitching review. So, to start off, Justin, congratulations on a great summer, first of all. The most athletes you've ever had in this building. Congratulations to both of you for that. So talk about the gains that you were able to witness this past training season.
Yeah, so like you said, we had definitely the most pitchers we've had in this building. We had upwards of 120. About 30 of those roughly were college guys. The rest of them kind of mixed in high school guys. We were able to kind of see a 3.1 mile per hour gain across the board. That was by far the largest we've seen from program to program. And so I think it was a really good testament to where we're at as a pitching program and where we've kind of come from. And then just across the board as a staff, like being on board with what we're trying to do.
For sure. So I'll jump to you on a little bit of a tangent, Cam. Okay. So being able, like Justin just said, being able to communicate with these athletes, having such a high number, how did you see the reception to you guys coming in now?
I think kind of understanding like how drastically different of a audience we had. We had anywhere from guys throwing 65 to guys throwing 95, 97. Yeah. We had a couple submarine guys, like kind of all over the place. So just being able to understand what the athlete is at, where they're at playing wise, how they're structured anatomically, just having a full holistic view of the athlete themselves gives us an opportunity to talk to them, give them objective feedback, as well as some subjective stuff too. Like there is a mental side of the game. Just having a general overall feel of what's going on and being able to do what's best for the athlete.
So, perfect segue into my next question. So Cam touched on it a little bit, but the variety of athletes you have here in your pitching program is vast. Like he just said, you guys have ranging from all over the place within the pitching spectrum. So how did you feel, Justin, that helped the pitching program train the variety of athletes, and what, if you don't have to pinpoint it specifically, but what do you think helped you get to that point?
Yeah, I think the first thing and foremost was the hiring of Nick. Bringing in a new voice, a new person, a new perspective was a big part of what we kind of needed. And he helped kind of fill some of the gaps that we had in terms of pre-injured athletes or a new influx of athletes that showed up injured. We were able to kind of get on board with the plan they needed, have more coaches involved and oversight into that, and it kind of helped us streamline that process a little bit more. The second thing was definitely the different variety of coaches we had, right? We had 3 new hires on the intern side and 2 coaches that had previously worked another summer that came back. And so I think, one, having those previous coaches coming in with, learning the old systems and being able to kind of pick back up the beginning of summer and hit that ground running. And then also having a voice to coach the new interns was a big part of what we needed. Yes. And Cam can highlight this as well. Like, I don't think I ran very many bullpens this summer, and it was probably the best we've ever ran. And so I think having more coaches on the floor that have a feel of what the pitching program is and what athletes are doing, and we're all speaking that same language, it made it really efficient.
So, I think to go off of that, I think there's 2 things. One, to touch back on the intern side, like I think we did have 2-3 like rock stars that really carried us, like guys that understood what was going on, knew how to apply themselves and really get after it. But touching on what Justin said about not really having to feel like he's running bullpens and stuff, I think that just speaks on to the systems he's built out, we built out, just getting everything organized so everyone knows where they're supposed to be, and it's just a really smooth running system the whole time.
Awesome. So you touched on it a little bit. With the hire of Nick, and you talked about how it's just a different voice. It's a very educational voice that understands a lot of different things. But with the hire of Nick, how did you feel that the pitching program was able to fill a gap that might have been missing as of last summer? Yeah,
the 2 biggest gaps he filled right away was injured athletes we had currently training, kind of re-looking at what they were doing and building out new programs for them that are going to stay in the pitching program for a really long time. Yeah. The second one was being able to bring new athletes in that were injured and kind of open up that market for the pitching program and bring that oversight into what we're trying to build out, right, is that return to throw program. Yes. And we're, he has opened up a lot of our eyes to that. And he even kind of pushed us towards the armcare.com stuff and trying to fully implement that around that system.
So we talked about it last week with the remote program. If you haven't gone to watch that podcast, Talking Points KPI episode number 44, go watch me and Cam talk about the remote program.
Yeah, I'm biased. I'd say it's a pretty good podcast.
Pretty great podcast. If I would say so myself. But talk about how, and like Justin said, him not being able to be here all the time, talk about how you've seen Nick kind of fill the gap in-house.
So I think the biggest thing, Justin kind of already touched on this, like building out programs that are more specific to certain injuries, not even injuries themselves, but deficiencies in general that are much easier for us to implement. Looking at things such as arm care and kids' scores, metrics on that. I know Nick was kind of the driving force with Justin in terms of getting up to speed to that, helping the staff get up to speed, and then kind of get everything running smoothly. So they kind of led the initial outflux of the arm care systems, and now it just becomes being able to plug and play a little bit easier from a traditional coach sense, like not having the full expertise that Nick does. I feel comfortable being able to go in and implement programs based on what I see that he's built out and just making it much more plug and play, scalable for us.
Absolutely. I think on that too, right? Like I think we were very reactive early on in the pitching program, and Nick brought the mindset of we need to be more proactive in this sense. And so building out some of those programs has helped not only the injured athletes, but the guys that are healthy stay healthy and even make gains through that process. That's been a big part. And the armcare.com sensor and the systems built around it have allowed for us to, further grow that at a faster rate.
Absolutely. And so I do want to highlight the fact that you said not being able to be here and having it run the best that it's ran, kudos to you for even getting that started. Right, being able to have a system that is able to progress at that nature has to be done by somebody, so that all kudos to you in the very beginning, right? But I want you to talk about how now this summer, having to kind of go like this a little bit, how that felt, and then now here, talk about the feelings of, okay, I don't know how this is going to go, to now you're like, okay, this went great, and I'm very happy with the product we got.
Yeah, the biggest thing kind of taking a step back initially was, are the coaches that are being put in those roles, are they ready for that? And are the athletes ready to hear that from a different voice? And a big part of creating these systems was having coaches that can speak the same language, so that if Nick's not in the building, if Cam's not in the building, another coach is there to pick up where we left off. And, testament to our coaches, like they did a very good job of that. And I think, the athletes saw that. You could see athletes gravitating to multiple coaches, relationships getting deeper, getting broader. I think that's a big testament to where we're at.
For sure. So now this will tie into more of the athlete side, but you guys have had individualized training since the conception of KPI, right? That's kind of KPI's bread and butter besides return to flying. How have you let the athletes that talk about the importance of individualized training, how have you seen the new systems kind of elevate that style? And then now, like you guys said, the systems are so good. How have you seen the individualized training kind of progress?
Yeah, our assessment process has helped us speed that up for sure. We dialed that in the spring, and I think with the influx of new athletes, we needed to be efficient with it, and we were. We utilized tracking that process. And one of the biggest things on the pitching side was bullpen order, or just the influx of in sessions. When we're having more athletes in a short amount of time, we need to be very efficient with what they're doing. And so we kind of came up with a system of placing athletes at certain mounds with certain coaches and having an order to that, so that coaches weren't having to search for athletes to go throw bullpens. It was just a free-flowing system. And then being able to customize drills to the athlete based on their physical limitations was a big one. Rather than the programming being cookie-cuttered across the board, we were able to individualize movement drills according to what that athlete needed.
Yes. And for the viewers that don't know at home, the things that we were using for that is Nick and armcare.com.
No, this would be through video work, through TrackMan, being able to assess what they mechanically lack on the mound, tying that back to their physical assessment and their force plates, and then being able to give them movement drills, whether it's water ball stuff, whether it's hinge movements, stuff like that, to go throughout the day.
Perfect. So we'll move on, right? Rapsodo has been the main data collector for some time here. Now with the new installment of the gold standard technology, so to say, TrackMan, right? how have you guys seen, since the installment, the system of pitch design just absolutely flourish?
So I think the biggest thing is being able to utilize both. So being able to see what the ball's doing out of hand versus what it's doing over the full 60 feet 6 inches of ball flight. For those of you at home that aren't aware of aerodynamics and stuff, Justin and I can get a little nerdy with that. But basically during ball flight, the seams interact with the air to change how the ball is spinning. And on Rapsodo, because it just measures out of hand, we cannot get a fully accurate representation of what the pitch movement is like. So using TrackMan and being able to compare, all right, this guy's slider profiles is this on Rapsodo versus this on TrackMan, and being able to try to tie the two together, see, we're starting into some grip stuff, seeing certain grips help affect ball flight in different ways. So really being able to look at that and go back and forth between the two, and also start speaking the same language on the two. So being able to use TrackMan, but also speak to what that pitch would likely look like on Rapsodo, and then also running kids through Rapsodo and being able to speak to what's possibly happening on TrackMan, and really just being able to go back and forth, speak the same language, and really just get everything going smoothly.
Absolutely. So Justin, I will talk to you about kind of the same topic, but how have you seen the athletes kind of gravitate towards the ability to now, okay, well, like he said, you're able to design what pitch you want to essentially throw. How have you seen them kind of take in that and go, okay, I'm going to go all in on this?
Yeah, a lot of early on we had Rapsodo. The pitch design became very difficult with certain pitches, right? Whether it was splitters, cutters, certain type of pitch profiles, they were very hard to get an unbiased opinion and a real objective measurement of what that pitch was doing. So TrackMan gave us the ability to test new pitches with new athletes that we had in-house for over a year. Yeah. And then a big thing too was looking back at previous movement profiles of athletes we've had on Rapsodo and looking at the differences early on TrackMan, and kind of eye-opening of we've been working on this on Rapsodo, but TrackMan says that that's not the route to go, so we need to change things up. And some athletes that was confusing at the beginning, sure. But luckily, again, speaking that same language, we were all able to get athletes to buy into TrackMan and what it meant to the pitching program.
For sure.
I think too, it got to the point where it was almost a contest. Kids would come up and be like, "Oh, I saw so and so has this new changeup. I wanna learn the same pitch." Things like that. You start getting some weird looks when we start figuring out, to create sync, or some guys that favor cutting their fastball, you have to cue them into we have to cut a sinker or cut a changeup to get the right seam orientation to get arm side run. Really doesn't make sense at all in your head. But being able to look at TrackMan and Rapsodo and be like, okay, this is what actually happens, and then relate that to the athlete. There's definitely a handful of pitches where on Rapsodo we were pushing guys in certain directions on pitch design goals, where once we got TrackMan, we actually pushed them in the opposite direction of what we were doing, because we're able to get the actual objective movement data for ball flight.
That's amazing. So with all this said, right, there's a lot of new stuff on the table. Systems have improved, and they will always continue to improve, which leads me to my next question. How do you guys see the pitching program being in the start of 2023?
I want to continue to grow, or we want to continue to grow. I think Cam mentioned this earlier, but going from 45 athletes a year and a half, 2 years ago to now almost 110, 120. We want that to continue in this building, and we want to keep the athletes that have been here continuing to stay here and getting better. We also see the new implementation of arm care and the coaches surrounding that as a new path of what we need to do. Like we talked about earlier, Nick's implementations of new programs, players being bought into what we need them to be bought into, and then being more proactive in that is going to be a huge thing leading into 2023. TrackMan pitch design courses where we can talk about how we can use these things in facilities, how it can be implemented at fields, if you have access to both, what that looks like. And then lastly really is continuing to use Pulse with our return to throw program, being more objective with what we're trying to get during that process, whether it's arm speeds, velo, or certain numbers around armcare.com. and a holistic approach to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Say too, like just keep pushing the overall knowledge that we provide to athletes. I think we're in a very unique case where we're kind of building out our own pro program just by creating so many high school arms and hitters that really as we continue to progress and have kids graduate, go off to high-end colleges, hopefully we get some guys drafted here soon, and we're just able to continue to see their development and see like how far some of these guys can go, because we definitely have a good handful of guys that are going to throw for a very long time in their life.
That's very true.
So it's going to be super exciting. Immediate future, long future, bright things ahead for sure.
And last question before you go, but I'm kind of pleading towards the audience here, but having such a vast group of kids in your facility, how do you find, because you guys don't change, you don't change the communication, but you change the way you talk. So how, as coaches, and either one of you can go first, but how are you able to find that line to where this can work for him, I just have to say it this way?
I can start.
Yeah.
I think that just comes down to like the personal relationship with the athlete. Like first 2-4 weeks that you're in, you're probably not getting like super tailored conversations to you because we don't quite know you yet. We're still navigating, like learning how you operate, learning what motivates you. Like there's specific athletes you have to be more buddy with, and some athletes you have to kind of get on a little bit harder. So it really just depends on the athlete and how they respond to certain critiques, and they're just getting to know them. Like talking about COD, talking about their favorite football team, fantasy football, whatever it may be, and just getting to know them a little bit better to then coach them on a more personal level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, piggyback off that, like the trust piece is a big one in this building. Shout out Chase for this, but athletes don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so, you know, with that being the case, like sometimes there's coaches that are going to relay information to the athletes in a certain time because that's what that athlete needs. And a big thing really too is understanding like the short term versus the long term, and what an athlete needs in the moment now versus what they're trying to build towards, and what skills are actually going to scale to what they're going towards, right? We get athletes that playing varsity baseball in high school is their ultimate goal, and some athletes want to get drafted in the first round. So the way we coach those athletes and set goals for them and communicate to them is going to be completely different. For sure. But understanding where they need to be is the biggest thing, and then getting them to buy into themselves and to trust that we are doing the best. We are trying to do the best thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
I think we're good to go. All right. Thank you guys very much for listening to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 45. If you would like to sign up for any sessions, please visit kpimh.com. There is a tab at the very top right that says sign up for lesson. Feel free to go there, click the link, and then get started. We'll hope to see you guys in the facility soon, or a part of the remote program. If you want to go watch that podcast, go to episode number 44. This has been Talking Points with KPI. See you guys next time. Bang.